A very good afternoon to everyone from Indian Chamber of Commerce, and we are hosting this MSME Coming of Age, partnered with our partner organization, Calcutta Chamber of Commerce. And as a brief introduction about Indian Chamber of International Business is that we are a Chamber of Commerce, and we are based, our head office being in Mumbai. We are present across 43 countries of the world and about 11 states in India. We are basically working more on the micro and the small entrepreneurs because we believe that it's not business is not only about the industries or sectors, but it is about the people who make up these sectors or industries. So we have been thinking about this SMEs, small and medium entrepreneurs, as you all know, is very significant for the growth of any economy, and its role in achieving sustainable development is very important. So today's session actually is dwelling on the fact that highlighting the points that India being having the largest population in the age group of 20 to 35 is becoming a youth resource, and with a well institutionalized system of vocational training, India has adopted the approach of entrepreneurial development activities to meet the required demand of skilled labor. There are various schemes implemented for MSMEs. The major focus of these policies is on skill development, because it is a prerequisite for starting a micro, small or medium entrepreneurs. This session is an attempt to understand the skill sets and its inclusion in the various policies and what more is required to be done. So we have a lot of eminent speakers, and to begin the session, the first session, for today, we invite Mr Shubobrata Dasgupta, who's a partner of Mindframe Consultants, to make a brief presentation on the skills. A little introduction about Shubobrata is that he is into various aspects of people's development projects. He has handled training audit and trained the trainer programs in various locations in the country. As a freelance trainer, he is into various sectors, FMCG, automobile, cement, etc., apart from finance, training people in customer handling, and so on. Today, Shubobrata is going to give a presentation on the skill sets that which we encounter in our day-to-day life. So over to you, Shubobrata. Shubobrata.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon to all. I would like to share the screen with the presentation which I have for the day.
Would you like us to share the presentation, Shubobrata?
Yeah, it will be good.
Manpreet ji, can we have the presentation?
Yes, just give me a minute, I'll start. Shubobrata ji, can you stop your presentation so we can begin from our end?
Okay. Yeah, I believe it is visible to all. Yeah, the subject given to me was need for the skill-based curriculum for industry-ready workforce. Well, this is a subject which definitely is something which is uh, very commonly um, discussed, and we are already having a lot of programs going from the the government's end, as well as a lot of companies, corporates who are also participating in this as part of their CSR. So I have been a part as faculty for a few of the programs which held in different parts of the country, and there are a few things which I wanted to share with you as a part of the experience which I have I have had. Now, this is an agenda which I just briefly give you the about myself, which already Tinku has said. A little bit of a background from where I would like to talk about today's agenda, and e-communication, which is coming up to be a very important agenda for all the kind of skill that will be uh, uh, available in today's scenario. And two of the things which I would be talking a little in little more is the creative quotient and the adversity quotient, and obviously the takeaway from whatever that we will discuss. So coming to the next one, uh, already the introduction has been given by Tinku, so I don't want to spend any time here. Well, when we are talking about the background, I have been myself into marketing and sales for many number of years, and I have met a lot of people in the process. Now, I have been into marketing as well as later on came into the training. Now, in both the roles, I found that people coming to various activities, they definitely have a lot of things to do, but somehow they miss the main point where they would like to be more pronounced, or they can be of more use. I would like to talk about the mental aspect of it. Various ways we have seen that people who get into a job, they do come in, but without knowing whether they are actually suited for that particular kind of job, or they have just come in without knowing about it. So basically, it is very important to find out whether the person actually has the mental aspect to carry on with the job, the kind of job that he is doing. So that's where from I come. And while getting into it, the next slide that comes in, uh, it comes very early. In fact, I can say that our education system has not given us much of a scope to inculcate in our mindset, as well as the academics that the curriculum that we have less to do with our hands. We have more technical theories and everything, and that is where we find a lot of cases people are unable to apply themselves when they are on job. Whereas on the other hand, we can see in the West, people are more onto the hands-on. They are basically given the situation where they can really uh, master their act with their hands. Maybe they have little lacking in the theories, but theories do help. There is no, I mean, I don't have anything against the theory, But with the hands, we have always been lacking behind. And that is what we found in the last PLFS, which was revealed, that is a periodic labor force survey, which happened in 2019-20. It says that nearly 97% of the population who are age of 15 or above, they do not have any technical education, which means they probably are having the kind of schooling with the academic curriculum which they have, but the technical education is very much lacking there. And the percentage of the youth with the formal vocational training for working age population will be somewhere around 4% only. Now, when we come to e-commerce communication, we can say that 5G is on the way, that we are already aware. And it will open the entire activities very fast. And there will be whole lot of uh, opportunities that will come in. So the people who will be technically getting the exposures, they need to understand that communication, especially the e-communication, will be a very important aspect in coming in the new age of technical expertise, whichever they will have. And going forward, if they want to do it as their own venture, or they want to work in any particular industry, they need to have it in a very important fashion. As we all know, with 4G, a lot of these the smartphone activities and whole lot of new technology that has opened in front of us. So 5G definitely will come up with more into it. So the exposure will be even wider. So much of it we are not even very clear as of now. And the next slide will say that how much it is going to affect our life. It is more than 58%. That is the virtual reality, where the entire commerce, the entire activities, maybe the other avenues of tomorrow's uh, work, as well as opportunities that will happen. So less with the physical interactions, because as we can see that most of the commerce is happening on the e-platform. Now, coming to my subject, if I talk about the ideas, the slide says that if I have an idea in the mind, that has to be very correct and very specific in my mind, and that is something which I have to communicate. My piece of idea should be well versed, and I should be able to carry it forward and talk to the people who makes a difference in my life, and I can also make a difference in others' life. And that is where we can really come about with the exact thing that is there in my mind, which is the creative side of mine. Because in the next slide I will talk about it, where the creative senses, basically everything is like what new I'm going to bring in, the new ideas, the new concepts, everything is the opportunity that is in front of us. And that is where we can really go about and have a respectable work coming, I mean, created through that. So the boundaries will be no more there, and the entire activity that will be whatever is today will be even farther when my creative senses are also in line with it. So the barriers of the communication will be erased. More people will have access to the virtual mode. So as we go into the core areas. Now it is mostly with the urban. What about the core areas where a lot of people will be also get added? Now there will be the barriers between the small city and the large cities will be all vanishing very fast, and people from any part of the country, any part of the globe will be connected, and the commerce, the education, the technical know-how, everything can be exchanged very fast, very effectively, and what is beyond reach in today's scenario will not be there in another maybe or two or three years to come. And coming to the next one, it is just a forward of the word that I was talking about, the creative quotient. It is basically the ability to create new things, ability to understand old idea with the new concepts, whatever that is coming in as a new idea, whether I can connect with it and I can make my ideas more divergent. I can bring in more ideas. I can exchange ideas with other people. More I will be open, more I will be open to the informations. Everything will be in a new plate, in a new platter. So that is where a creative person will be more relevant in the today's scenario as well as the coming tomorrow. Now, getting to the next one, the adversity. Now, what about the people who have the knowledge, but they do not probably have the ability to control their emotion or to sustain in the current situation with the stress and the situation where a lot of their traditional thoughts are getting challenged because of the way things are changing. Every day a new idea is getting evolved, and way people are getting into their world, everything is changing. How we can really take up the challenge and get to the new situation. So it has to be like more competition. It will only give new innovations, and definitely for new innovations there has to be a better skill set. So when we are talking about anything to do with the skill set, it has to be improved, it has to be upgraded, it has to be wider. So in the individual in today's scenario cannot just work on what he has got from his earlier days or the tradition that he is following. And most of our the traditional craft, that is also getting getting backdated or not of use in today's scenario, and that is where the craft is also becoming not for the age. So we have to understand that every idea, every concept, and every knowledge that we have need an upgradation. Now that for that upgradation, what we also need to understand that if we are not capable enough to handle our emotion and also take up the challenge, it will always remain as a big difficulty in coping up with the new things that are going to coming in our way, and that is where the whole challenge is. And takeaway from what I wanted to say through my presentation was the virtual communication that will be a big key to work in. The skill set has to be upgraded every day. The creative senses need to be explored, and at the adversity part of the life is to be embraced. Basically, we need to come up in a way where all the all the challenges that we are going to have with the new situation, the new kind of scenario, and where we can really put up our whole thing in a situation where we can explore our own abilities and the talent that we are born with to grow on that. And finally, upgrade your skill. That's the final word that we all want to say, because the world demands it wherever we are, because the political boundaries or the geographical barriers are no more going to be there. So the world is becoming smaller. So we have to be flexible enough to gather what we are getting as an option or an opportunity in front of us. We should be able to grab it with both our hands. And that exactly is what I wanted to say through my presentation. It was a very small one.
Yeah, thank you, Shubobrata, for this insight into the skill requirements. Things are definitely changing. In fact, the COVID has changed everything. And we need to rethink on various other for the overall development, so that the industry requirements have also changed. And how are we going to address them? So with this, I request Professor Dr. Sujoy Biswas, CEO and Director of Techno University Group, to share his views. What we want to know from you, sir, is that are our skill development or personality development, these value additions are always done at the higher education. So how adequately are they addressed? If you may kindly share your views on this, sir.
First of all, a happy new year to all who are present over the August gathering who are there. And a great deal of thanks to Tinku Ji and Tinku Rajeev Gupta, Mrs Tinku Rajeev Gupta, and all the members of International Chamber of Commerce for giving me the chance to share my views on this, which is a very important view, right? At this point of time, skill is something which we cannot do without. And I was listening to Mr Shubobrata Dasgupta, and he rightly pointed out the things that I would like to give a presentation on that, because the skill is what I call is skill is most important, and skill how important is skill. I would just before I make the presentation, I'd tell a story on skill, and that I tell in every platform where I put a lecture of mine. An American was riding a Cadillac car in Afghanistan. An American was riding a Cadillac car in Afghanistan and was going through the desert. In the midst of the way, the car gave up. And that guy didn't know what to do with that. It was not starting anymore. An Afghan guy was coming on riding a camel, and he just got down from the camel, went to the US guy and found what has happened. He said that the car is not taking, we are not able to switch on the engine part. So he inspected the car. The Afghan guy had some little kind of tools in his baggage, and he inspected the car. And within 5 minutes, he said, okay, you open the bonnet. Then he struck on the cylinder head for about 10 times and asked the American guy to start the car. And the car started. Then the US guy said that, how much do I pay? Thanks a ton. I was just in midst of the desert. I would have been totally deserted. And so he said, but what is your check? What check I need to pay? And then it billed, and it was $100. And the US guy screamed at the top of his voice, and it's $100. You did nothing. You just struck 10 times on the cylinder head, and you are saying that it is $100. You give a breakup of your charges. And the Afghan guy said, it was like that. The bill was made like that. That 10 cents for the 10 hammerings that he did on the cylinder head. 10 cents was charged. 10 cents were charged for the 10 hammerings on the cylinder head. and $90.90 for $90.90 for knowing where to strike and what to be done. So that is the importance of skill that is important and which is still important in today's perspective. Now I'd duly go to the presentation part and just wait for that, and I'm able to share my screen. Tinkuji, am I visible?
Yes, you are.
And is my screen visible right at this point of time?
Yes, yes, it is.
So, my presentation is on need for skill-based curriculum for industry workforce, because we I represent Techno India University and Techno India Group, which are educational institutions, but we are of no job, and we wouldn't get the next batch of students if our students are not skilled enough for the industry. And I have written and I quote, the learning new skills and gaining knowledge should be a lifetime activity that we should remember. India, being a nation with 75% of population in the working age, employment becomes a major concern in a new normal scenario as per the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship India. So that's the overview. When we go to the overview, I said the skills and knowledge are the driving force of economic growth. We all know it's a very experienced gathering. Presently, the country faces a demand-supply mismatch as the economy needs a more skilled, quote-unquote, workforce than it is available. We find workforce, but they're not skilled. In the higher education sphere, which I address, knowledge and skills are required for diverse forms of employment in the sector of education, healthcare, manufacturing, and other services. Potentially, the target group for skill development comprises all this in the labor force, including those entering the labor market for the first time, and those employed in the organized sector, and also those working in the unorganized sector. What is the importance of skill-based curriculum? Ramesh and Farshad C. 2004 in his study had already proved that effectiveness of life skills training in increasing mental and physical health, pro-social behavior, and decreasing in behavioral social problems and self-destructing behaviors. Rudbari, Sadipur, and Ghale 2013 in their research had showed that life skills training has a positive effect and improves social development, emotional and social adjustment, suggesting an increase in compatibility of children and public health. The same had never been so very relevant as it is today, as it is right at this point of time. As the world changes and the economic change and the economies change with it, the need for a skill-based workforce is on the rise by not less than 86% in the current financial year, as per the latest university academic survey, which we have done in 2021. So how do I look at education right at this point of time? For me, I quote Vivekanandaji when I talk of education, that education is the manifestation of mankind already in man. But how do I look at it? For me, education is simply an enlightening experience and the process of acquiring knowledge. Now, however, it should rather be skill-based. Now it should be skill-based than knowledge or academics only. I have seen that in any given class, there are students who are not excellent in their studies alone. So they have other projects in which their weaker ones can come up and excel in other disciplines. Ultimately, it is not only the knowledge that matters, but if one has the skill to do something, then only it guarantees the work much more. As per the World Health Organization, life skills are the abilities for adaptive and positive behavior that enable individuals to deal effectively with the demands and challenges of every day. Then what is life skill-based education? Professionally known as soft skills, life skill-based education helps one to reach their full potential and to prepare them for the challenges of everyday life. It is the ability to think abstractly and approach problems from multiple angles to acquire practical solutions. Furthermore, it focuses on nurturing these life skills such as self-reflection, problem solving, critical thinking, and interpersonal. Very, very important life skills. That's self-reflection. We need to know ourselves, problem solving, critical thinking, and interpersonal skills. Life skills training education takes into account psychological competencies and interpersonal skills that help students to take right decisions, solve problems, think critically and creatively, communicate effectively, build healthy relationships, empathize with others, and cope with managing their lives in a healthy and productive manner. In the Indian context, skill-based education is considered to be a vocational skills that is obtained through short-term training or courses, not part of the formal education sector, which provides employment in informal sectors. Such skills are also a part of the government's Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana or PMKVY scheme, which aims to promote recognition and standardization. However, expertise needs to be developed in the formal learning system as well. In my opinion, low skills perpetuate poverty and inequality. Helping people develop and update their skill makes real economic sense. When done right, skill development can reduce unemployment and underemployment, which is very important in this context, and increase productivity and improve life standards of life. Now, there was a historical transition, as I quote, when the Indian economy opened to the outside world way back in the 90s, early 90s, through liberalization and globalization, it created a great demand for graduates with skill across vital industries, which led to a huge race to secure more marks and more degrees. Post the internet and mobile revolution, job seekers in the formal sector saw new opportunities. To learn necessary skills from the internet and through internship prior to a full-time job, the reliance on formal education to obtain job-ready skills saw a slow decline. Students are the human capital of the country. It is essential to empower them for the development of the country. 3 benefits of skill-based education, as I quote. The first one, flexibility. Skill-based education places the ownership of learning in the hands of the students and helps them to restrict the big gap of understanding. The assessment demonstrates their competency rather than grades, and the education process is a great boon for dropouts as they can easily move ahead without a gap. The whole structure depends on the individual, where students control their learning with the help of assessment and hands-on projects. The second one, if the first one is flexibility, the second one is acquiring experience. In skill-based learning, students are groomed to become successful leaders in their chosen field. To facilitate this process, it is paramount for students to think beyond grades and acquire real-life skills. Grades are important, but not that, but very important are the skills. These tangible experiences are often overlooked in the traditional form. So we have done with flexibility and acquiring knowledge. And what is the third one? The third one is purpose-driven. The purpose-driven skill-based education is definitely more effective and purpose-driven, which helps students to receive a clear objective along with a vibrant culture. It is a perfect mixture of opinions, values, and routine to form a solid foundation. It promotes and develops the art of learning and development, hence empowering the students to become successful in the chosen field. With the help of schemes such as recognition of prior learning or RPL, today the students in India can receive both security and benefit, as it aids in an equivalent acknowledgement of both informal and formal learning. Countries need policy interventions designed to better support skills development and measure program outcomes. Now we are all about outcome-based learning, or OBE. So outcome is very important. What is the outcome of any learning? For this reason, the World Bank Group has also engaged in program and policy research and analysis to improve skills, interventions, and measurement. So what are the learning skills? The learning skills are habits that can be used through your life to complete projects and communicate effectively. They can continuously be developed and improved to help you accomplish daily tasks or achieve your career milestones. There are a variety of learning skills that can be beneficial for you to have, whether you are a student or a seasoned professional in the workforce. It is important to note that many of these skills could be applied to one or more skill categories, but for simplicity, I have separated these skills into 5 distinct categories, and let me discuss which are as follows. The first one, the organization skills, which includes organization, time management, multitasking, strategy development, information management, note-taking, cleaning workspace, schedule planning, event coordination, and productivity. So the first is the organization. The second is the communication skill. Communication skills, first is active listening. The second is situation analysis, technology competency, media literacy, empathy, persuasive augmentation, argumentation, clarification, respect, public speaking, and writing. The third is collaboration skill, the leadership, team orientation, conflict resolution, compromising, engagement, reliability, resource allocation, project management, task delegation, and goal setting. The fourth one, critical thinking skills, critical thinking, attention to detailing, evaluation, analytical thinking, interfacing, inferencing, self-regulation, annotative reading, text interpretation, decision-making, comparing and contrasting. And the fifth one, the last one, problem solving, adaptability, overturning, curiosity, innovation, brainstorming, entertaining, open-mindedness, repurposing, and creative writing. As per the Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship Development, or MSCD, currently 40 skill development programs are being implemented across 20 ministries. These comes to 50 lakh students. We are also, Techno India also doing a portion of this, being trained annually on vocational skills, either on the state or central government schemes or privately with groups like Techno India. International context, global mega trends such as rising role of technology, climate change, demographic shifts, urbanization, and globalization of value chains are changing the nature of work and skills demand. To succeed in the 21st century labor market, one needs a comprehensive skill set composed of factors which are as follows. One, cognitive skills, which encompass the ability to understand complex ideas, adapt effectively to the environment, and learn, experience, and reason. Foundation literacy and numeracy as well, creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving are cognitive skills. The second, the socio-economic skills which describe the ability to navigate interpersonal social situation effectively and include leadership, teamwork, self-control, and grit. The third one, the technical skills, which refer to acquired knowledge, experience, and interaction need to perform a specific task, including the mastery of required materials, tools, or technologies. The fourth one, the digital skills, which are cross-cutting and draw on all of the above skills and describe the ability to access, manage, understand, integrate, communicate, evaluate, and create information safely and appropriately. For a young country with possibility of the largest number of job seekers entering the labor market every day, every month, it is important that the education policy pays real heed to skill development ideas. Now, the key issues we need to tackle for skill developments are access and completion. Across the world, investment in education and skill development from ski school through post-secondary education have high returns. Second, the quality. Many young people attend schools without acquiring basic literacy skills, leaving them unable to compete in the job market. The third one, relevance. Technical and vocational education and training, which can last anywhere from 6 months to 3 years, can give young people the skills to compete for better paying job. And the fourth, but not the last one, efficiency. Challenges related to governance, financing, and quality assurance to impact the efficiency of skill development program. So how to create a skilled force in India? First, the vocational force skill needs to be aligned very closely with the education system and needs to begin in the earlier years of education. First one. The second one, every student should be exposed to few basic skills and few specialized ones which they can choose to learn as they go along the educational path. The third one, the initial few years should be spent in providing an overview and preparing the students on what skills they should want and what they will be good at. The fourth one, gradually teach them a particular skill over the next few years such that when he or she completes graduation, they are ready for employment in the given sector. The fifth one, traditionally we have seen teaching mostly through classrooms, but the methods of learning across the 4 classrooms, on campus, on site, online, and on the job should become the route to learning. The sixth one, a schedule and structure for the duration for each classroom can be put together, clustered to the students, basis their school skills, sets, and background. The seventh one, a national credit mechanism can be put in place, which will recognize the skill education undergone by the students parallel to their formal sector. Not only would this help in boosting confidence in receiving vocational skill, but also increase the social signaling for the training. The eighth one, updating curriculum, infrastructure, and content is required to sustain the students' interest in learning. Ninth, and not the last one, the teachers and lecturers in schools and colleges plays the most important role in shaping the students' careers. It is imperative for educators to keep themselves upgraded on the subjects and skills they teach these students. So what are my recommendations? What we need is a multidimensional approach to skills that include cognitive, socio-emotional, and job-relevant skills. To implement the approach, we must take these 5 steps. Step one, getting the children off to the start by developing the technical, cognitive, behavioral, and digital skills early in life that create a framework for the student. The second one, ensuring that all the students learn by building stronger systems with clear learning standards, good teachers, adequate resources, and a proper regulatory environment. The third one, building job-relevant skills by developing the right incentives for pre-employment, on-the-job training programs and institutions. The fourth one, encouraging entrepreneurship innovation by creating an environment that encourages investments in knowledge and creativity. And the fifth and not the last one is step 5, which is facilitating labor mobility and job matching by moving toward more flexibility, efficient and secure labor markets. My personal perspective, the development of skills can contribute to structural transformation in economic growth by enhancing employability and labor productivity and helping countries to become more competitive. Investment in a high-quality workforce can create a virtuous cycle where relevant and quality skill enable productivity, growth, and foreign direct investment, which result in more better jobs for the current workforce and more public and private investment in the education and training system. Thus, in turn, the same shall increase employability and productivity for both current and future workforce. Should students be able to keep in mind that post-COVID skill-based sector will witness a jump in the demand of job opportunities related to sanitation, health, technology, and more. With the various skilled workforce roles, now students have the opportunity to be a part of the process in helping break down the vicious generational cycles of unemployment once and for all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tinkuji, for giving me the chance to speak my mind and to put these points together, which I feel is very relevant and very important at this point of time.
Thank you so much, sir. With your deep insight, we take on this skill generates work and the digital skills, the need for digital skills. With this, I request Mr Snehasish Sur, who is the President, Press Club of Calcutta. He's an iconic journalist and is currently the President of Press Club Calcutta. He has been a recipient of multiple awards in the field of journalism, and he's been teaching for decades in prestigious institutions such as University of Calcutta, Jadavpur University, Vishwabharati University, and Indian Institute of Mass Communication. He has also authored many books and published multiple papers. I call upon you, sir, to please share your views since you've been working across various domains. You have been in touch with the various skills that are available in the sector, in various sectors. So can you request you to kindly share your views on the skill requirements?
Thank you
Over
very
to you,
much,
sir.
ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. And my greeting to all present here, especially on the new year. And I must thank the organizers for considering me to be a part of this process and asking me to share my views. I'm not an expert neither on MSME nor in business nor in other factors which are directly related, but by virtue of being a journalist, we come across various kinds of people with a particular interest, and we try to learn their interest and understand and carry it forward not only to people at large but to other people of concern whose concern is very important for the others' concern, like a connect between the business group and the government, or getting a feedback role to the government when government is looking forward for some kind of policy prescriptions and things like that. So we work as a catalyst, and I'm grateful to the organizers for considering a journalist to be part of this process, to act as a catalyst and to share his views. I would also like to thank Mr. Utpal Chatterjee, a former sheriff and a very renowned journalist and editor, internationally acclaimed journalist and editor, who will also share his views, but more as a person of eminence who has seen this world, and he has interviewed various persons, but mine is on the grassroots level. So I consider my, senior, and I pay my respect to him, and I will say hi to him, and then I'll try to say a few words. Initially, I must say that two of my earlier speakers have made their cases extremely clear and extremely explicit. Dr. Biswas has given us the importance of skill and how the skill could be imparted and how the skill should be incorporated in the academics. And Mr. Dasgupta has already given an overview of a requirement of skill, but my take is slightly from the other side. You are specialists of MSME, and you know that the scope of MSME has been enhanced leaps and bounds over the last couple of years or maybe a decade. So now the definition of MSME incorporates or encompasses various other industries. Not only there are various types and structures of that kind of industry. So you have to encompass, and where a skill is very, very important, as we have seen in the small industries, in the medium industries, because the large-scale industries are machine-driven and more automatized, but here in the MSME sector, the particular skill, and as far as the innovation in MSME sector, the scope of innovation is much more in the MSME sector. So obviously, this without skill there cannot be innovation, and absolutely at the floor level, at the production floor level, lot of minor innovations which lead us to major innovations which are very, very important, and those things are not possible without having skills imparted. So the skill is the most important factor that we all know, we have understood. Now, how to incorporate that skill in the workforce? That is the biggest question. And as we have always been saying, that India is now having the large number of young population. So we have a responsibility to change our mindset in the academics as well as in the industrial training. So the newer areas of training like machine learning, the AI and all other things are to be incorporated, and to be seen that how much of our population would actually be able to be incorporated with that skill. Not that each skill is suited for each individual. That has to be found out first. So there has to be layered, imparting of skills but the upliftment has to be there. A person who is actually absolutely at the grassroots level may be incorporated with a skill which is not much of intelligence and could be upgraded to the next higher grade of skill. Because without skill, nothing is happening today. So maybe a traditional, maybe semi-traditional, maybe minor innovation. So some kind of skill. So what I'm trying to say, that what I have seen in various MSME sectors and other skill sectors, that this categorization or classification of skills are to be identified, and the takers are to be identified, and the connect has to be made that who should be given what kind of skill, and that needs to be area specific. So our country is a large country, a vast country, and I cannot call for a skill which is required in a hilly terrain like a jhum cultivation or something, upgradation of jhum cultivation or irrigation in a hilly terrain, and that too in a muddy land, or that too in some other plains or riverine areas. So each kind of area, even in the small farm size agriculture, so the training has to be quite different. Or the industry, the requirement of localized talent searching and localized skill, maybe traditional skill, and to be identified, and upgradation of those skills and semi-mechanizations of those skills to improve the quality. And especially since your chamber is international business oriented, the export connect, that has to be there. So this is my take, is that the area specific requirement of skill development is to be identified, and the takers to be identified, and the process, the government is very keen in, imparting skill, the state government and the central government. We have this National Skill Development Corporation and the sectoral skill development. Like I know that there is an Media and Entertainment Skill Council. So there are various skills councils, and you are the experts in this, and you know much better than me. So identification of skills area-wise and identification of takers, prospective takers of those skills, this connect has to be made. Otherwise, as a huge country and we talk about several skills and local people go haywire. And a hand-holding. I think this chambers and all other organizations, educational institutions, there is much role of a formal educational institutions. Apart from giving engineering degrees, those engineering institutions can also side by side on a sideline can undertake, skill development courses, short-run skill development courses with the infrastructure of their labs and infrastructure of their faculties, and which will be, targeted to the weaker sections of the people, or those who cannot study engineering degrees, diplomas, but yes, they can jolly well come for a small course. So that connect has to be made, and then maybe a CSR activity of the educational institutions, technological universities, other universities can be envisaged, and obviously the Chamber of Commerce can be of some help. Now, this linkage of entrepreneurship and with the traditional small-scale industries is also one area which is lacking. You see, in the MSME sectors, we have a lot of semi-mechanized, mechanized, and lightly in our parlance, we can say bigger industries. So they have their own mints and they have their own channels of their trade bodies and industrial bodies and things like that. But think of the small and cottage industries and since the export is there, so there is a lot of scope for export of our cottage industries. So that link I would like to urge upon the chambers, the organizing chambers, to kindly think of how to patronize, how to handhold this traditional cottage artisans, and to give a quality uplift of their products, handmade products, and to linkage with the domestic market and also the foreign market. This is one area where a lot of scope can be done. One is skill imparting, another is quality enhancement, another is market connect, and another is export connect. So these are the areas which can be thought of. And there are two things I would like to mention, though I'm not an expert on skill, but since, as I said, the journalists are exposed to various groups of intellectuals and specialists. So with that view, I would like to humbly submit, especially the earlier speakers have dealt in, so I do not want to indulge, but I will just humbly submit that upskilling and reskilling, these are the two major areas where we need to think of. The upskilling, as we all know, would be requiring to advance skilling to cope up with international standard. That is very important, the quality control. And the reskilling is, we know that during COVID, a lot of people are losing jobs. So minor changes of their skill and skilling them in new areas where there are opportunities being created. Even this pandemic areas, the opportunities are being created. So mapping of the upcoming opportunities are to be finalized. And I think in this scale, in this sphere, the institutions, educational institutions, and the experts and the chambers would have a greater role, that you find out the changed areas. Like in media and entertainment industry, we know that by now the print and even the traditional the television is not having growth as warranted, but instead the digital journalism, the digital media, the digital platforms are having an exponential growth. So as we are shifting the focus of all our media students to digital media, similarly, the entire areas of which are the areas which are becoming the sunrise, and telling the youth and the young workforce, prospective workforce, that look, these are the areas where the jobs are going to be there in increased number. So why don't you keep your plan B? All of us have a traditional plan A. This is the mindset. But if we can instill them to have the plan B, which is newer, and impart the skill towards plan B, their employment and things like that in plan B would be much more beneficial and much more effective and much more easier, because plan A will never give jobs, whereas plan B will give jobs. But we have to change the thrust of the young people towards plan B and to impart them training on plan B in media and entertainment sector, which is nothing but the digital. So these are the areas which I think that we can think of the role of industrial bodies and institutions and they can actually do this. And last but not the least, we know that when we talk about the largest young workforce and we talk about employment, these two are misnomers. We have to find out a solution in startups and entrepreneurial development. So the entrepreneurial development and the management skill of managing a small and medium industry, so that skill also may be imparted across the trade and across the industry as such. So that is something which is very important. It's not only the family business, it is not only the startup, and obviously the linkage with the banks and linkage with the financial organizations and linkage with the government. So these hand-holding needs to be there at this moment, especially to the youth, and which an established trade body can do, an established university and educational institutions can do. This linkage is very important, and linkage with the finance so that they get the seed money, they get the startup capital and things like that. There are a lot of opportunities and schemes, and there is a requirement of a thrust and hand-holding in making these young people enabling to get the benefit of the schemes which are available, be it financial, be it trading, be it industrial and all others. So I believe this chambers and trade bodies and universities can play a bigger role in making the hand-holding. First, identifying the areas. Second, identifying the takers. Third, motivating the takers for these identified areas, upskilling them or reskilling them, and then the linkage with the finance and support so that they can actually start up, especially those who have some interest in going for startup, and the rest are the employment. Employment will go in its own way, and we know how things are. And in the modern technological industrial revolution, what would be the employment that we know? But small, medium and small scale sector, the per capita, the per rupee investment employment ratio is much, much higher. So obviously we'll have to think of this. So these are my submissions, and I will not take much of your time. And I'm very happy that you have recognized the role of the journalist as we interact with various groups, and so that we have some idea, I should not say clear idea, and in the linkage our point is also heard. I'm extremely happy and grateful, and thank you very much all the speakers and the organizers. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your insights. We definitely look upon this as the upskilling and reskilling is required to meet the international standards, and also the mapping of an upcoming opportunity, which is very crucial. I think we have a way forward from your views. And with this, I request Mr. Utpal Chatterjee, the former Sheriff of Kolkata, to share his views. A little introduction about Mr. Chatterjee is he's an acclaimed Indian journalist and public speaker. He was until recently the Sheriff of Calcutta and its first citizen. He has interviewed 21 heads of state, 9 Nobel laureates, and traveled with Indian Prime Minister as part of their respective media delegation. Over to you, sir, for your remarks. Yeah, Mr. Chatterjee, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Good afternoon, Utpal. Sujoy here.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Tinku, for the brief way you have brought me into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I realize as I look at my watch, we've already crossed an hour. And that only suggests that I keep my little quote-unquote presentation to just a few minutes. A few comments, perhaps, will do. I was very happy to listen to Mr. Dasgupta, my fellow speaker, Mr. Dasgupta, Professor Biswas, who has interviewed me on his television channel earlier. And of course, I was delighted listening to Snehasish, my colleague from the same profession. Now, I have one suggestion to make to the organizers, if it's possible after hearing Mr. Dasgupta and Professor Biswas. They did read from the presentations, and perhaps we would have wanted to listen a little more to them speak, to the audience as themselves, because presentations are fine, but if they could be printed in hard copy, the audience would love to treasure those copies and the presentations. I was so happy listening to Snehasish because just as is my wont, he decided to do away with any paper and spoke from his heart and from his experience, and he has plenty of both. Ladies and gentlemen, the few comments that I wish to make is based on the interactive thing. If you want to ask, if there is time, if Tinku allows, then you could ask me questions, but then I would like to keep it as short as possible. I'm not looking at my watch, but nevertheless, I know how difficult it is to keep listening and listening and listening on end. The first, I would like to borrow a word, simple. It came from Snehasish's presentation. The simple is a word I love. In 1988, before I went to the United States to cover my first coast-to-coast US presidential election, I was in Bombay and I was invited by the great J.R.D. Tata, arguably the greatest Indian among all the prime ministers and all our great Indians that I have met. Arguably the greatest Indian that I have come across has been Mr. J.R.D. Tata, and is known primarily as the father of Indian industry. He's no more with us, but much of what he has said stays. You see, somehow he took to me as I was looking at him full of awe, because that was the first time that I was meeting him. Our scheduled 20-minute meeting went to 3.5 hours, which included a delicious working lunch. And here was a man who was speaking so softly, so softly. He was so warm, so friendly. And we would talk. I would listen, I would do most of the listening, because he was a man worth listening to. After some time, when he was speaking about times, about whatever was happening in the world of industry, we did everything on one condition, that I, as a journalist, would not quote him. So this would just go as a conversation that I had with him. I promised that everything would remain confidential till we go to our respective graves. Well, among so many things, Mr. Tata told me, you know young Chatterjee? He loved calling me young Chatterjee. And then he insisted that I call him Jay, because he liked me very much and he knew my father, my late lamented father, who was a national professor. So he says, you know what? You have to call me Jay. I said, how can I call you Mr. J, sir? And then he says, no, you have to. Those whom I deem close to me call me by my name. My name to those who are close to me call me J, J-E-H. Now come on, call me J. He treated me like a child, and I loved it the way he went about it. Eventually, I was persuaded to call him J. He said, now, you know, I'm a very simple man, and I like to handle even complex things in as simple a way as possible. If people try to explain things to me, big things, big words that I do not understand, all expressions I do not understand, I ask them to be very simple. Speak short sentences. Speak in just 2 minutes. Tell me what the problem is, and I would help. I said, yes, sir. Jay. I said, yes, Jay. And then he said, simplicity, they say, is the hallmark of greatness. Well, I nodded vigorously. Then he says, you know, there are many ways of getting to the point or getting to what you want to do in your industry or outside in your life, but it has to be simple. Don't make it complex. Even when I wanted to learn how to fly, and we know he was a person because of which Air India came into being, and as luck would have it, irony would have it, Air India is going back to the Tatas. Now, here was a man who said, why thinking simply, speaking simply, putting across things even more simply would yield the right results, no matter what, no matter how difficult the situation may be. From JRD, I'll quickly jump to another person I've always held, even is now no more, in tremendous esteem. The man was nobody but the great Rusi Hormuzji Tata, the man who looked after Tata Steel for 54 years. Here was a man who felt, well, as he would say, Utpal, there is nothing as precious as common sense. The problem is, it is so difficult to find common sense. Now, people look for words, they look for expressions, they look for material to deliver lectures, but for heaven's sake, why not inculcate some common sense? And I knew why he said that. One day, in his office in Jamshedpur, in the chairman and managing director's office, he heard a lot of commotion. Now, Tata Steel otherwise is like a library of silence. And he heard this noise and he called people and asked, what's wrong? Why the noise? Because Tata Steel never ever had any labor problem that called for shouting or high decibels. So he went out and then he saw a huge crowd. On the one hand, you know, you had a lot of officers who could be graded as officers. And on the other side were plenty, hundreds and thousands of labor employees. And the labor employees were doing the shouting. So what he did was he quietly, as he himself had narrated to me, quietly moved to the back and mingled with the workers. And he asked one of the workers, "Kya hua?" the way he would speak Hindi. And they explained to him, "The look, sir, I'm saying it in English. Look, sir, it's been so many years. We've been asking them to do something about our sanitation problems, because just go into one of our bathrooms, sir. Just have a look with your own eyes. Only then would you understand. Our talking will not help. And Rishi Modi did just that. And he came out in just maybe not even 3 seconds. And then what he did was very simple. He went up, climbed a few steps, was above the others, and he just said, "Ya carpenter kaun hai? Bulao." And he got a carpenter. And he gave the instructions to the carpenter. In no time, on the men's washrooms, on the top was written, instead of for officers only, this was within the precincts of the main works, the factory. It was written for workforce only. And he left it at that and went back to his room. That left the officers in a quandary, because he was absolutely sure if the officers had come with the training and with their experience, they would find their way out. And they did. And the problem was solved. What could have escalated or snowballed into something far worse? Now, that is management. That is leadership. Now we talk of skills, soft skills, communication skills. The first thing, ladies and gentlemen, when we are born, our parents, they teach us, and the greatest ambition, I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, is that we all grow up to be good human beings. And to be good human beings, we must inculcate certain values. Values have been touched in the preceding presentations. Unfortunately, values have not been explained. And I'm not going to do the explaining now. Suffice it to say, when values merge within your conscience, you are bound, and if you follow them to the T, well, with times, things will change. And Mr. Dasgupta was saying, you have to upgrade, and there would be upgradation. The fact remains, you are going to be a good man. If you are pleasantly disposed towards your work, you are pleasantly disposed towards your workers, to your colleagues, to all others, then everything will work like magic if you follow the values that you first inculcated from your parents, subsequently from your teachers, and of course, from your own experience. You see the great men like the ones I explained, 2 of them at least. I met many. God has been very kind. He has taken me to all kinds of places, had me meet all kinds of people in all kinds of situations. Even months before the Berlin Wall fell, I met the great Mikhail Gorbachev, who was going through a very difficult time. But that was the first and last open elections in the Soviet era. And meeting Gorbachev then and talking to the man who changed the course of European history, although the Americans claim credit because of Reagan. But it was Gorbachev who did, and he faced the music. But of that, if Tinku calls me some of the time, we are going to have a more absorbing session. But suffice it to say, let us be with what our father principal used to say in our childhood. Be good. You know, when we were children, when we thought just saying good afternoon, father, good morning, father, or good evening, father would be enough. No, he would stop us if 3 of us are walking together, and he would say, always remember, sons, be good, act good, think good. Today, after so many decades, there's those little meetings we used to have in primary school. These words seem so true. And these words seem, these bits of advice seem so relevant. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised I won't take much time. If I have, my heartfelt apologies. If you have something to ask, well and good. But back to you. And first of all, I mean, I must thank Snehasish for his very kind comments. He's like my brother. Thank you, Mr. Dasgupta. Thank you, Professor Biswas. But over to Tinku, who is the real person responsible for getting me here to meet you people. And meeting you, although I can't see you, has been a great experience since you have heard all that I had to say. We'll meet soon, I'm sure.
Great.
All depends on the great Tinku. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that insight. Indeed, we are always talking in terms of skill development and skill enhancement. But these are the examples that you said. They never had any formal skill development as such in those days. But still, it's their inborn abilities which has gone taken them to a great heights. Thank you so much, sir.
Tinkuji, I would just like to mention one point. Can you give me a 1 minute's time?
Yes, yes.
When we qualified for the management entrance exam, we had a group discussion. And the group discussion topic in those days, I think it was mid-90s, it was very common. It was said, does good managers require management training? And the example was given of Rishi Modi ji, who was the greatest manager India has ever seen or may ever see, who didn't have a formal management knowledge. So there was a lot of argument on that, but at the same time, it says that structural knowledge, that Rishi Modi ji are the persons with great common sense, as Utpal sir said, are the exceptions. But trust me, structural management knowledge is required for professional managers, so that you don't learn by getting stuck, but you know the other case histories or case studies before you take a knowledge. And I think that makes a difference, whether be it skill or management or any others. That's the only point that I would like to make. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, Tinkuji, remembering me, inviting me, and giving me the chance to share my views. Thanks a ton. Thanks from the bottom of my heart. With so much speakers like Utpal and Snehasish Sur, who have been very close to me for a very long course of time.
Tinku,
thank you so much.
I have 1 second, please.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You see, I forgot to mention one tiny anecdote about the great Rishi Modi. Sujoy was absolutely right in what he said. I have no disagreements. He has his views. Rishi Modi has been, at a later period, the chairman of the Indian Institute of Management, not one but two, the IIT, everything. Forget all that. Let us go to the time when he was invited as a chief guest at the MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is considered the prima donna among all these institutes. Now, he was invited because he was considered the world's #1 man in as far as industrial relations go. Industrial relations. He was #1, numero uno. Now, when he heard the other speakers speak, some of the very best in the world, I understand Bill Gates was also there. When they spoke, everybody spoke. It was the turn of the great Rishi Modi, chief guest. Well, there was quite an ovation and a lot of expectation from Rishi Modi when he went up. Rishi Modi said this to me himself. We were very close. In fact, 2 days before he died, there is a photo featuring him, me. There was very little that I do not, and I don't want to let out the confidence, but forget it. Rishi Modi went there and he said, in so many words, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for inviting me to speak all the way from India. Now, frankly speaking, let me make a very honest confession at the very outset. The fact remains that I do not know what to say. I've heard so many eminent speakers speak before me. They're all management experts. In India, we have a word for them. We call them ustads or pundits. You're familiar with the word pundits? The pundits. I've heard them all. but frankly, everything went above my head because whatever they said and much of what they said was Greek to me. Now, frankly speaking, in this situation, I'm really in a bind. What do I do? And he asked somebody who looked very young.
Utpalda, you're muted. Utpalda, you're muted. Just unmute yourself.
No, it's all right. Now, he said, well, I have an idea. I would stand here and have you people ask me or pose problems, any problems regarding management, industry, your problems within your place of work, anything that you need to ask. I will take just 3 to 4 minutes to answer everyone in my own way. Well, questions came by the dozen.
Utpalda, you're again muted.
Suffice it to say, what happened was very simple. At the end, when Rusi Modi got up, among the others, well, then MIT heard the kind of ovation which I understand from my friends at MIT. In fact, one of my students is a director at MIT, a former student. Well, where you have a Nobel laureate who was also my student. Whatever it is, the fact remains, MIT has never heard an ovation of the kind that followed whatever the presentation or the answering of difficult posers in as simple a manner as possible by the great, inimitable Rusi Hormuzji Modi. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the insight. Much of it we take from the first session, and moving on to the next session, we would request Mrs Shailaja Mehta, President, Calcutta Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to share her thoughts on what the government initiatives are to address the skill needs of the industry. A little introduction about Ms. Mehta is that she's the director.
Sorry.
She's the director of Jardine Henderson
Tinku, I
Limited.
can do away with the introduction right now, Tinku, because I think we are running short of time.
Okay.
Let's just start. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I'm switching off my video because then the clarity in the speech was much better that way.
Okay,
I hope it's all right with everybody.
Yes, it's okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring the gamut of this discussion back to MSMEs and the business environment. By the way, Tinku, I'm not speaking on skill. I was supposed to speak on the overview as regards MSME. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm going to keep it to that, and I'm making it very, very short. MSMEs, as we all know, and we are completely convinced that it is the most important sector which kind of runs the economy all over the world, not just in India. Having said that, it is also called the engine of growth, and there's a reason why it's called the engine of growth. Ideally for an MSME, the takeoff period is shorter, so it gives a spurt to the economy. And this is the reason why MSMEs are so very important. They give you a balanced growth, they give you inclusive growth, and they give you spurts where it is needed and when it is needed. But having said that, there is one thing I would like to focus everybody's mind on, is the problems that MSME face. And there is one problem that completely strikes out, at least to me as a part of a business community, is the lack of resilience in this sector and sustainability. And when I say lack of resilience, I would again bring everybody's mind, especially the Chamber of Commerce's, to just one thing: the inadequacy in change management in this sector. We've seen government policies, we've seen structural changes come up in financial institutions, regards to MSME. But in spite of everything, there is this vacuum. Under changing circumstances, we've not been able to have a seamless change management system in the MSME sector. And that is possibly the reason why MSME sectors are always hit badly. It's a dynamic sector. It needs dynamic solutions. And this is the only thing I want to point out, where, because everybody else has already pointed out the challenges that face the MSME sector. But I think all of us should deliberate on giving some thought into how we can get a change management system for the MSMEs developed, so that today it's COVID, tomorrow it could be war or something. Whatever takes this sector to be resilient, to be sustainable, and to stay put. What is it that is needed? Pinpoint the exact stuff that is needed. I think that should be our motive. Thank you so much. I want to end my discussion here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for the insight. I'd request Mrs. Shirley Jayawardene, the first Lady President of the Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Sri Lanka, to share her thoughts on how we can move forward with this change management. Ma'am, over to you. Shirley, ma'am, are you there?
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start the video. Okay. Give me a second. Some problem with the technical problem. Okay.
Yeah. Now
I'm grateful to. Can you hear now?
Yes, ma'am. We
Okay,
can see you also.
You want Can you see me also?
Yes.
Okay. I'm grateful to the Indian Chamber of International Business for inviting me for this important panel discussion on connecting MSME globally. The topic is indeed timely and crucial, and context of the new normal where we strive to rebuild our economies in the post-pandemic era. In line with the global MSME sector, I'm going to talk about Sri Lanka MSMEs, challenges and solutions. I must say that without MSME, the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, the global economic landscape is almost empty. As you all know, MSMEs are the backbone of economies around the world. In fact, approximately 400 million MSMEs in the world are engine of global economic growth. With respect to the number of employees, investment and turnover, the definition of MSMEs varies between countries in the world. However, in general, the number of employees in a medium-scale business is between 51 and 500, whereas small firms generally have 10 to 50 employees, while micro enterprises have less than 10 employees. As in other countries in the world, MSMEs are the backbone of Sri Lankan economy. In line with the international definitions of MSMEs, Sri Lanka generally defines the MSME sector in terms of an annual turnover and number of employees. The companies with 51 to 300 employees and annual turnover, Sri Lankan rupees 251 to 750 million are medium scale enterprises. The small enterprises have 10 to 50 employees and annual turnover, rupees 16,000 to 250 million, 16 to 250 million, while the micro enterprises are with less than 10 employees and less than Sri Lankan rupees 15 million of annual turnover. The Sri Lankan MSME sector is considered as a driver of change for inclusive economic growth, regional development, employment generation, and poverty reduction. In fact, according to recent statistics, the MSME sector in Sri Lanka accounts for more than 90% of the total number of enterprises, provides 45% of the employment, and contributes 52% for the GDP. Like in Sri Lanka, the global perspective of the MSME sector is also significant. The MSME account for over 95% of the firm and 60 to 70% of employment worldwide. European Commission reports that in the countries of European Union, the MSME represent approximately 99% of all businesses. In the Asia Pacific region, MSME comprises over 98% of the total number of enterprises and employ over 50% of the workforce. Latest report of Asian Development Bank suggests that about 97.2% of the total firm in South Asia is MSMEs. According to the World Bank, MSMEs in the formal sector of emerging economies contribute 40% of the GDP. When the MSMEs in the informal sector are also included, these statistics are significantly higher in the emerging economies. The MSMEs in the low-income countries in the developing world contribute approximately 17% to the GDP, whereas in the high-income countries in the developing world, MSME contributes about 40 to 50% to the GDP. According to World Bank, estimates 600 million jobs will be needed by 2030 to absorb the growing global workforce, which make MSME development a higher priority for the government around the world. Therefore, Sri Lanka should pay special attention for developing MSME sector. As I said before, in Sri Lanka, the MSMEs instigate change for inclusive economic growth, regional development, employment generation, and poverty elevation. Moreover, MSME promotes broad-based equitable development and provide more opportunities for women and youth participation in the economic development of Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka MSME sector consists of about 1 million establishments, providing employment to around 2.25 million people in Sri Lanka. However, throughout decades, MSMEs have been facing difficulties such as lack of access to finance, difficulty in exploiting technology, constrained managerial capabilities, low productivity, regulatory burdens, which have become more acute in the global technical-driven economic environment. Therefore, we believe that enhancing national and international competitiveness is fundamentally important for MSME sector to face the emerging challenges and to develop MSME as thriving sector in Sri Lanka economy. In fact, we need to strengthen the Sri Lankan MSMEs as globally competitive, dynamic, innovative, technologically driven, eco-friendly and sustainable SMEs and contribute greatly to the national economic development in the country. I think that there are basically 6 major areas that we should address in order to strengthen and to develop the MSME sector in Sri Lanka. These areas should be conducive business environment, modern technology, entrepreneurial culture, and skill development, access to finance, market facilitation, and research and development. There should be proper legislative, regulatory, and institutional framework to enhance the ease of doing business to improve the competitiveness and supporting establishing a conducive environment for MSME development. The MSME should be facilitated for the acquisition and adoption of modern and appropriate technology for them to enhance quality, innovativeness, and competitiveness of goods and services. There should be proper mechanism to promote, facilitate, and support entrepreneurship development and building capacity at school, universities, technical and vocational training institutions with an emphasis on youth and women. Also, it is important to strengthen capacity of institutions providing training and skill development on entrepreneurship and MSME development. These 6 major areas for developing MSME in Sri Lanka have been addressed in the National Policy Framework for SME Development formulated by the, Framework for SME Development formulated by the Ministry of Industries and Commerce in 2016. However, there should be a proper action plan along with effective. I'm sorry, I have a technical problem.
No problem, ma'am.
Yeah.
Actually, the main
For instance, the Federation of Chamber of Commerce and
Continue.
Industries in Sri Lanka since its inspection has been instrumental in facilitating Sri Lankan MSMEs in promoting their products and service locally and internationally. The FCCI is the apex chamber movement in Sri Lanka with the membership of 63 district chambers of commerce and business association, where FCCI has worked with about 25,000 business entities, including MSMEs. Therefore, I emphasize that national chambers of commerce and industry in Asia and other regions in the world have greater potential to work together in developing the MSMEs locally and globally, and in effectively facilitating MSME network to better connecting with their counterparts and all stakeholders in the different parts of the world, therefore accelerating the economic recovery in the post-pandemic era. I thank the Indian Chamber of National Business for organizing the important panel discussion at this crucial moment of regaining our economic strength in the new normal situation. I wish you all great success in all your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Indeed, it's a very big need for the action plan because everything is there. But only the main problem arises is that how the connectivity occurs across the border. I think that's a very crucial thing. With this, we move on to Mauritius, and we request Mr. Sivaraj Nandlal, Councillor, Mauritius Economic Development Board, to share his views on the MSMEs of Mauritius. So over to you.
Thank you, Tinku ji, and thank you to the Indian Chamber. Thank you. So thank you to everybody, and it was very nice listening to the previous speakers. So I'll just have a quick presentation. My presentation is quite extensive, but what I'll do is I just shorten it in for the sake of time. So just give me 1 minute. I'll put it on. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Just trying to bring it on the. Okay. Yeah. So so this is about Mauritius. So basically, here we are here to speak about the SME in India, of course, but also about SMEs across borders. And here, as you can see, Mauritius, for the benefit of those who may not be knowing about the country, so it is in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So we are a gateway into Africa, and we are at the crossroads for Asia, particularly for India, and also for other parts of the world like Australia, Europe, and all that, for entry into Africa. So we act as a gateway for Africa. So when we speak about the SMEs, I'll go straight into the subject of SMEs. So as it was said previously, it is an engine of growth. So in our country, it has been recognized as playing a very key role in economic growth and in improving living standards. As you can see, it has contributed nearly 40% to the economy, employing around 55% of the workforce in the country, and the exports from the SMEs stand at double digit of 12% today. And there are various sectors, as I will show you later, there are various sectors of the economy where the SMEs are operating in Mauritius. But just for the benefit of understanding what SMEs is about, and here we have the ecosystem, and we have within this ecosystem, we have the SME Mauritius, which is a government entity that has been set up. Of course, it is a private company, but it has been set up by government to promote and develop entrepreneurship in Mauritius, including supporting the SME sector in the country. So some definitions are there in terms of how we define our own SMEs, because as we know that each country has its own definition of SMEs, and our definition of SMEs is based on the turnover of the company, of the entrepreneur. And so here, as you can see, and it gives an indication of the scale. When you look at this type of definition, it gives an indication of the scale of the country. So our country is a population of 1.3 million people. So market is small, but as I said, we are a gateway into Africa. So as a gateway, we provide a bigger market, which is equal to the size of India. So what has been the role of SME Mauritius in Mauritius? So there have been various schemes that have been put in place. For example, SMEs require markets. They may be having an idea, they may need finance, they may need the technology, but what is very important is once they have the product or the services that they can produce, so they need to market that. So there is a marketing support scheme which is there. And as I mentioned, our technology, so some of the schemes, as you can see, are here. And very importantly, also during the past 2 years when the pandemic hit, so the government came up to support, came forward to support the not only the big enterprises, but also the SMEs. Some of the SMEs are even one-person company. So government came to support them, and through the wage assistance scheme or through the self-employed assistance scheme. I'll just give you one example of an SME in Mauritius. Today, it is one of the major, I would say, producer of textile in Mauritius. So it was started. It is called the Combined Motion the Textile Limited (CMT). So it was started in 1986 with just 30 employees, one sewing machine, which was doing only cut, make, and trim operations. But today, as I mentioned, it is a global leader into jersey wear apparel industry. It is the largest vertically integrated manufacturing plant in sub-Saharan Africa. It has expanded overseas with factories in Bangladesh and Madagascar. It has marketing offices in UK, France, and New York. And as I mentioned, so it was all started in Mauritius. So it is headquartered in Mauritius. So this is just to show that the opportunity, even a small economy like Mauritius, offers the opportunity, the right environment for companies to start small and grow big. Today, as you can see, CMT is a global company in the field of apparel industry, and they're doing very well. So in terms of the various sectors where the SMEs are operating in Mauritius, as you can see, we have the logistics, supply chain, pharmaceutical, biotechnology, consumer business, IT, media and creatives, the tourism industry is there, manufacturing is there, so there are many more, financial services and all these different industries where the SMEs are operating in Mauritius. So when you look at Mauritius, you may be looking at Mauritius as an SME, you may be looking at Mauritius as a market, but also you should look at Mauritius also as your trusted partner for business, for investment, of course for trade, but also you can come and work and live and even retire in the country. We do have some of our Indian friends who have been in Mauritius for many years. They are working, they are living, and they are already well established. And they also the plan is now to retire in Mauritius. Yeah. So this is I mean, in a nutshell, this is about Mauritius. As I mentioned, it's a population of 1.3 million people. We are bilingual. We speak English and French. And given that we have a very strong population of Indian origin, that is nearly 70% of the population is of Indian origin. So we do speak a third language like Hindi, Marathi, Bengali. Some of them speak Bengali, Telugu, Tamil, and all that. Yeah. So as a country, we are very diversified. When we became independent in some 54 years back, so we were only dependent on sugarcane plantation. Today, we are diversified. After 5 decades, we are diversified in the industries, as you can see. Some of the main sectors were in terms of the contribution. So manufacturing takes the leadership position. Then we have tourism, financial services, real estate, IT, and it goes on with logistics, with education, healthcare, and all that. So as I mentioned, that is the SMEs are spread across the various sectors in Mauritius. And when we look at the Mauritius-India relations today, you will see that in terms of the trade, India is exporting a lot of its products to Mauritius, and we are exporting very few of our products. So what is good about the relationship today, that is, here you can see in terms of the import from India from Mauritius, it's nearly $400 billion, while we have exported nearly $30 million in 2020. And so tourism, you can see that is, we have nearly, I mean, tourism in India is one of the major tourism market for Mauritius. I think India has been in fifth position. That was prior to the pandemic. And now we have reopened our borders since October last year. So now fully vaccinated, the travelers are allowed to come to Mauritius. So some of the major imports, as you can see, petroleum products, fabric, cotton yarn fabrics, pharmaceutical chemicals, food items. What we are exporting is seafood, optical goods, medical devices, recycling material, and all that. And some of the companies that you can see that are present in Mauritius from India, you will see that the banks are there, the insurance companies are there, manufacturing companies are there, healthcare providers, education providers, all of them are there in Mauritius. So as you can see here, these are some of the companies. And as you will see that you might think that Indian Oil or SBI is a big company. I mean, it's a major, company, but you also see some of the smaller ones like Ora Institute, which is into education and trading. This is an SME that has started. Spectra I is another SME. So there is space. Cloud Factory, which is in the IT sector, is also an SME. So there is space not only for the big companies, but also for smaller size companies, SMEs, to come and set up in Mauritius. So I was mentioning about this relationship between Mauritius and India. I will be very specific on the economic and trade aspect. So we have signed this agreement, which is SECPA, CECPA, that is a Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement, signed last year, became operational since 1st of April last year. And what this agreement is all about, it allows trade to happen. So it has two main chapters. One is on trade in goods. The second one is on trade in services. When you speak of trade in goods, so it provides preferential market access both ways. That is for products from India to come to Mauritius, and for products from Mauritius to be exported to India. Likewise, so 615 tariff lines of products from Mauritius can be exported into India at preferential market access. So some of them are duty-free, others are into quota rates, into reduced duty, and some of them are into TRQs. And similarly for India, it benefits from 310 tariff lines. So like this, I'll just give you an example for Mauritius. So we're speaking about special sugars. So for the first year, we have a quota of 15,000 tons that can come at reduced duty of 10%. We know that in India, if you're importing sugar into India, it has an import duty of 100%, but under the agreement, SECPA agreement, if it is coming from Mauritius, it will be only at 10% reduced duty. Similarly, garments, fruit, wine, alcoholic beverage, and all that. So like, for example, for garments, 7.5 million pieces can come to India duty-free. So what is very important, as I mentioned, Mauritius is a small country, small market, domestic market, but worldwide we offer a much wider, bigger market. When you look at this visual here, you can see that Mauritius offers the possibility of accessing 70% of the world population under preferential market access. As I mentioned, we have this agreement with India. Similarly, in the region, that is with Africa, we are a member of the African Union. So we have also signed regional trade agreements like SADC, COMESA in Africa, and now we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Then with China, we have a free trade agreement. With the European Union, we have the Economic Partnership Agreement. Similarly, with the UK, with Turkey, with Pakistan, and also with US. So under all these agreements, products from Mauritius can penetrate these different markets at preferential market access. So this gives a huge opportunity for companies looking at expanding their reach beyond India. So looking at a potential location that is safe, that is secure, that provides market access. So Mauritius can be the place to go and start manufacturing goods or even exporting the services from there. So some of the products that we're producing and then being exported worldwide here, you can see in this slide. Very important, a few words about Africa. Africa is, as I mentioned, it's equal to the size of the Indian market. It's a country, it's a continent of 55 countries. And Mauritius, as being member of the African Union, provides this possibility for preferential market access under COMESA and the SADC, and also under the Continental Free Trade Area, which has been launched last year. So you can see the population, it is the largest young population. 60% of the population is currently below 25 years old. It is fastest growing. So, and in terms of the natural reserves, you can see there is so much of natural reserves which are available. So Africa is basically the continent which is going to grow in the next, within the next few centuries. So this is a market to tap into. And what are the opportunities for companies from India to look into? So here are some of the sectors that I have listed. So manufacturing, pharmaceutical, we are giving a lot of emphasis we are putting a lot of emphasis on pharmaceutical production in Mauritius for the domestic market, but also for the export market. Similarly, for food processing, today we are importing nearly 75% of our food requirements. So there is scope to come and produce the food locally to supply the local market and also for the export market. Similarly, in the services sector, we are a financial services center, international financial services center. So there is, again, scope in terms of wealth or asset management, structuring, regional headquartering, funds structuring, or family office, healthcare, education, logistics, IT. So today, after when we have seen it during the pandemic, IT and technology has taken center stage so that companies could continue to operate. So we providing the ecosystem for companies to set up technology-based activities. So if we have to summarize this relationship between our two countries, Mauritius and India, I think it's about being optimistic and taking advantage of the opportunities that are being provided. So I'm based in India. I'm based in Mumbai. So here are my contact details. If any one of you is interested to look at Mauritius in terms of, sourcing products from Mauritius or setting up a company or an office in Mauritius, I'll be more than happy to speak to you. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Tinku ji. I hope I haven't taken much of your time.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs. I'm sure that today that we have the three countries like India, Sri Lanka and Mauritius, the MSMEs of these countries would be able to reach out to each other from their respective places. Summing up, we have Mr. Nitin Pradhan, Obama Biden appointee from and also the federal CIO, CEO of Scale Up USA, Launch Dream, who has sent in his video. We usually know about the startups, but we also need to think about the scale-ups. So may I request Manpreet ji to kindly run the video.
Hello, my name is Nitin Pradhan, and today we are going to talk about why scale up your business in USA. So let's get started. So first, let me give you a quick introduction about myself. I am based in Washington, D.C. in US. I was an Obama appointee, a first-term Obama appointee. I've also been a federal chief information officer. I've been a managing director for Center for Innovative Technology. And today I am the CEO of Scale Up USA. So let's talk about the reasons why you should look at scaling up now. So the first and foremost reason is that US has now become an intellectual economy, which means we plan, design, develop, and prototype various products and services. But the actual manufacturing or operations of these products or services typically is taking place outside of the US. And that is why there's an ample opportunity, if you are a company in any of these kind of areas, that you should look at US, because US is looking for partnering with you. Now let's look at the second factor, and I call this the China factor. Is looking for diversifying beyond just China. And therefore, again, if you're in any other foreign country like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all these kind of places, or Vietnam, Malaysia, which have lower cost of production, then you actually have a great opportunity to partner with US businesses and actually work with them. The next reason I suggest that you should look at US is what I call the COVID retirements. As you know, COVID has been rampant for the last couple of years. And as a result of that, many Americans have decided to retire and just spend time, enjoying their later years. And that is why there's a shortage of labor. And these retirements have consistently been 3 to 4 million jobs and people almost every month for the last several months. And we are now in January, and that trend seems to be continuing. And already there is a shortage of about 10 million workers in US. And as a result, again, US is not able to develop and produce many of these products. And that is why, again, if you are an international company wanting to work with the US, this might be a great, great opportunity for you. The next reason I want you to actually consider US is because the stoppage of illegal immigration. As you know, from the southern border of US, a lot of illegal immigration was taking place over the last 10, 20 years. But US has managed to actually streamline that process and actually reduce this illegal immigration to a substantial level. And because this international immigration has stopped, which is illegal in nature, again, that is creating a shortage within US. So if you look at all these factors, you can start seeing why, all these factors are creating shortage of manpower in US, and that's resulting opportunities for all kinds of other companies. So there are basically big opportunities for global small, medium, and large businesses in US. The way we work has changed significantly, making the ability to coordinate in real time even more necessary. And that is why what we are doing is we are creating some very unique programs, which I hope you can participate in. So essentially what I'm saying here is that the US is in need of global business partners. And while this is true, there are some very basic problems when it comes to actually, working with international business partners. And essentially, there are 5 major problems. First is, how do you identify business partners internationally? Second is, how do you really understand in depth what these business partners do and what their capability and capacity is? The third is, how do you vet these business partners, make sure that they actually do what they are saying that they do? And then finally, how do you team up with them for a win-win opportunity? And then finally, how do you execute for success? So those are the 4 or 5 things that you need to be able to prove to your American partner. So that is something which you should focus on. Now, couple of things we have started doing at Scale Up USA because we are seeing this kind of demand. We are first looking at creating and operationalizing a digital business partnerships marketplace. And I won't get into it in greater detail because this is a product. And if you're interested, you should go to the Scale Up USA website and actually check out this partnership page. Or you can talk, to the Indian Chamber of International Business and actually learn from them. But that is what I would suggest as a huge opportunity. This opportunity is not going to stay on forever. So let's make the best of it. So if you have businesses as your members, or you are a business, whether you're a startup, small, mid, or large company business, and you think you have a product or service that you can actually go out and sell or operate in US or partner with US companies, then you should consider all these factors and actually look at US as a destination for your opportunities. Thank you so much.
So with this, we come to the end of the session, today's session. It has been a very interactive session. We have looked at the skills requirement, and we have also seen its application in the real-time business or in the industry. What is the industry take on from the skills? And with this, I thank each one of you on behalf of Indian Chamber of International Business. And from here on, we take a lead to our next sessions. And in the years to come or in the months to come, we will definitely reconnect once again and take each one of the takeaways from this session. Thank you so much for being so patient. Have a nice day.